Ooh, checking microphone. Hello. Checking microphone. Hello. Welcome. 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 A B C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C D F G F G
A, B, C. A, B, C.
You're hearing the I'm hearing on the floor right now. You're hearing C. Yeah. This is what's gonna be they- playing video on that. No, the second program, you're gonna have Zoom participants. Coming back.
English channel, testing on English channel. Okay, good. And then over here.
Testing on the English channel. Do you have maybe a spare little foam protection for the headset? Because mine is ripped and it kind of hurts. Okay, I'll go check.
Yeah, honorable ministers here present.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, please can we sit as we await the arrival of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic? Why not doing bad?
Able to help you much with this protocol.
No problem.
I'm asking Rose questions, she's not answering me, so it's difficult for me to do anything.
I don't know why when we have an event, people will just get agitated. So it's okay. I'm okay now. I'm okay. I have everybody
However,
on our
let me
video.
just snap this.
Yes.
Yeah, we wanted this hang properly. This, we want this properly hanged. Yeah. Make it firmer.
Okay. Yeah, Abuna is not coming, but Dr.
Yeah,
Regina
that's
Raymond is here.
But this is yours. Thank you. Let me give I'll
Please,
give you.
also share, yes, I have the details. Yeah,
Just
Raul
give it to
Monari.
us. We need to
Yes,
find the
cheers.
final speed and,
Okay,
you know.
all right. Okay.
No, sorry, sir. We're going. Just a minute. Take now. Just a minute. Want to try?
Mama would not read this protocol.
No, I told her she's going to summarize.
Yeah, no.
If there are head
We'll
of
do
state
the
that are
prot-
here,
No head of state.
no other
That's
one is
confirmed, yes.
verified.
So if there is, also confirm
Mm.
from, because we'll know when they come.
Okay.
So I'll be fine.
So I told her she's
Yeah, they can come, right? Yeah. Is he coming?
It's me that called.
And yeah, that's fine. Let them come, yeah. Yeah, tell them to come. Yes, please, we should start.
I told her to group all the press, all the governors, group all the ministers.
Yeah, no,
ministers,
I'm
president,
gonna
something like
do
that. Yeah, that's what it is.
Sorry. They are all around. You know, we have opening segment where the president will launch and go. We will do the panel after that, so it's fine. Yeah. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, please may we take our seats as we await the arrival of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Thank you. Please may we rise. You're welcome, Mr. President. May we please rise for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Much, Excellencies, you may be seated. The President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Haji Amina Mohammed, Excellencies, Executive Governors here present, and the Deputy Governor of Kaduna State here, members of the Federal Executive Council here present, the permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations, His Excellency Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Orlope Adeflure, the Associate Administrator of the United Nations Development Program, Ms. Usha Rao Monal, the Commissioner for International Partnership in the European Union Commission, the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the Vice President of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, the Regional Director for Africa, United Nations Development Program, Assistant Secretary General Ahuna Izakonwa, the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the United Nations Compact, Special Representative of IMF to the United Nations, Special Representative of the World Bank to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, heads of federal government agencies, parastatals here present, the co-chair of the Private Sector Advisory Group on SDGs, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you today. My name is Bala Yusuf Yunusa, and I head the Policy and Strategy Unit in the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals. And on this occasion, I will be facilitating this segment and will be assisted with my colleagues. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, recall that in 2015, world leaders envisioned a future that is economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient. That vision was expressed through the framing of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 169 targets, and 230 key performance indicators. That vision became a universal call to action to end extreme poverty, safeguard our planet, and ensure all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030. Indeed, since the historic adoption of the SDGs, the federal government, under the able leadership of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, acted immediately in operationalizing the global goals. And this is evident with the timely establishment of the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals to provide horizontal and vertical intergovernmental planning and coordination resource mobilization and management, representation and partnership building, and monitoring, evaluation, and reporting for the SDGs. And since 2016, the Nigeria's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP 2017 to 2020, the Economic Sustainability Plan of 2020 following COVID-19 pandemic, the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy of 2021, and the new National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 have all been inspired by the SDGs and the cardinal objectives of this administration, notably the economy, security, fight against corruption, and lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty during the decade of action for the global goals. Indeed, the new National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 aims to unlock Nigeria's potentials in all the sectors of the economy for an inclusive, broad-based, and sustainable national development. However, a recent report has it that out of the $3 trillion required to finance the SDGs in developing countries, there is an annual financing gap of approximately $2.5 trillion. Both the public sector and the private sector have a crucial role to play in the implementation of the 2030 agenda. So there is significant potential to mobilize additional private investment to close this gap. Institutional investors such as pension funds, insurance companies, and sovereign wealth funds hold approximately $80 trillion in assets. And it is argued that shifting 3 to 5% of that capital towards development will be significant to contribute to the achievement of the SDGs. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and this specifically to Nigeria's context, the entire budget of the Federation in 2022 is about 27 trillion naira. The federal component is about 17.1 trillion, while the 36 states combined about 10 trillion. That is about $60 billion today. So that is about the size of the public sector in relation to an economy with a GDP of approximately $407 billion. So the central thesis here is there is a need to shift from funding sustainable development to financing sustainable development, because funding is hardly sustainable, but financing is sustainable. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the design of the Integrated National Financing Framework for Sustainable Development is another expression of Nigeria's commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda for Financing Development, and indeed the Africa's Union Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. The design of the Nigeria's INFF report and the framework was technically led by a multi-stakeholder co-working group and led to the design of the Integrated Development Financing Framework, as well as the Development Finance Assessment. And together, the entire financing ecosystem was mapped out, looking at domestic sources, public sources, and domestic private sources, as well as international public sources and international private sources for financing development. The entire design phase was guided by the National Steering Committee under the able leadership of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Dr. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed. And so today, this event to examine the Nigeria's integrated national financial landscape and to unveil officially the INFF report is jointly organized by the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Development Program, and the European Union. Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, with this brief context and background, it is now my responsibility to respectfully invite the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals for the opening statement.
Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, our father and leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Your Excellency, his Chief of Staff, distinguished executive governors here present, honorable ministers, members of the private sector, members of UN team, the various senior government officials here present, also the private sector team here present. We also recognize distinguished directors, head of agencies, and critical stakeholders, state actors and non-state actors, those that are working with us horizontally and vertically. On this note, I welcome also very important dignity from the UN system and their own, the DSG. It's my pleasure this morning to welcome our father and our leader, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, to this very important meeting for the launch of the very important document for the development of our country, Nigeria, scheduled to hold this morning at this venue. Please recall that over 7 years now, Mr. President joined the world leaders at this very important country to adopt the 17 goals, sustainable development goals, that comes with 169 targets and 232 key performance indicators. After the adoption of these important sustainable development goals, that will bring very important development to our people as a country. The President acted fast by establishing our office to pilot, supervise, monitor, and coordinate all the ministries, agencies, and departments of government in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, while working also with the subnational government. I am proud to say that working with all the MDAs at the national level, working with all the 36 state governors at the subnational level, as well as the 774 local government, to coordinate the SDG programs all across the country and report to the UN. We have successfully, in 2017, reported the Voluntary National Review of Nigeria, even though we are in recession, and the world under the UN acknowledged and praised the Nigerian government for that gesture. And again in 2020, we ran by the second Voluntary National Review. The framework on SDG was adopted, and all the action plan that was expected of Nigeria was done. As today, we are ahead of many, many countries, even though we are Nigeria and we are Africa. We have scored many first. And just last month, Nigeria became the first country in the Global South to have launched the evaluation report on SDG 3 and 4, which has never happened in the Global South. We also launched earlier this year the National Bureau of Statistics worked together with us to launch the National Bureau of Statistics worked with us to launch the basic on how the tracking of SDG will be done within our country before we expect what comes in from the United Nations. Nigeria recorded the first. And again on IFF, we're recording another first as a country. So I must thank our father and our leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, for giving us for having the political will and giving us the whatever that is necessary for us to drive the sustainable development goals in Nigeria. As we speak, Mr. President, we have coordinated about 18 state governments to integrate the sustainable development goals in their policy program and project. And we are working on, believe that before the end of administration, we'll be able to cover the 36 states and FCT, so that all of us will work in tandem with the aspiration of sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goal is about people, it's about peace, it's about prosperity, it's about partnership and our planet. All these must be put into consideration. And I want to thank Mr. President and all the service chiefs, all the security agencies for working so hard to bring back peace to Nigeria. Without peace, nothing can be achieved. There can be progress. And I want to thank the private sector team working with us, because government alone cannot do it. In the heart of SDG, the private sector. And that's why we also want majority of them here with us this morning to continue to work with us so that Nigeria will be prosperous, Nigeria will be great again, and people of Nigeria will be better for it. I welcome you, Mr. President, and very distinguished policymaker of Nigeria. Thank you for working with them, Mr. President, and giving the needed support to make Nigeria great. This is Nigeria, a very promising country, a great country, a country that's the only country in the world that you can go to your neighbor and eat and even sleep without fear of evil. It's a great country. And all of us must work together with Mr. President to continue to make it great. Nigeria is great and it will be great again. I thank you, Mr. President, for finding time to be here personally, as we did in 2019, where we launched the ISDG model, the analytical tool that we used to develop our budget for 2017 to 2020, and it's what the document we are using for 2020 to 2025. We'll continue to work hard to make you proud, and we'll continue to make Nigeria proud. I welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Sustainable Development Goals, providing an overview of what we do. It is now my honor to invite for the opening remarks, the Associate Administrator of the United Nations Development Program, Madam Ola Rao Monari. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President of the Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I'm very honored to be with you here today to deliver this opening statement at the launch of the Nigeria Integrated National Financing Framework, INFF, on behalf of UNDP's Administrator, Achim Steiner. Let me begin, sir, by congratulating Nigeria for successfully completing the INFF journey. I would also like to thank you, Mr. President, and the federal government of Nigeria for bringing together eminent personalities and leaders to this important launch event. We're all gathered here today because we recognize the present and clear challenge of development financing. We know the importance of ensuring that finance systems, both public and private, contribute to the achievement of the SDGs by 2030. The recent global challenges, COVID, climate, and continuing conflicts that have disrupted people's movements, supply chains, and financial flows have tested the resilience of states. Robust macro fiscal frameworks and comprehensive financing strategies adapted to the SDGs can help resist such shocks. One of the key policy shifts needed to achieve the SDGs over the next decade will be the ability to ensure that public and private finance systems are aligned to finance the goals, as you said, Madam. Although there's enough money in the world to finance the SDGs, it's not often allocated appropriately. Just 20% of global capital is held in developing countries, which are home to 84% of the world's population. The UN estimates a funding gap of $200 billion per year if Africa is to meet the SDG targets by 2030. Nigeria alone has a funding gap of 10 billion per year to meet the SDGs by that year. This is roughly equivalent to between 2.2 and 2.3% of Nigeria's GDP. To bridge this gap, the Integrated National Financing Framework was introduced by UN member states in 2015. The INFF helps policymakers to better understand the scale and type of investments needed to realize sustainable development objectives, identify the key opportunities to unlock resources and impact, and also drive forward important policy changes that can mobilize and align both public and private financing with the SDGs. While a country's national development plan spells out what needs to be financed, the financing strategy of the INFF shows how it will be financed through necessary reforms, perhaps, policy interventions, and how indeed it will be implemented. The UNDP draws up whole of government and whole of society solutions to countries' development challenges. In the context of the INFF, this is through what we're calling the SDGs financing dialogues, which bring together public and private actors, as well as civil society stakeholders at the national and subnational levels. This makes UNDP a key partner, I'm very proud to say, in the INFF process, not only in Nigeria, but also in over 80 countries where we're supporting reforms to bridge the finance divide. I'm very proud and honored to be a partner with Nigeria. Nigeria has made important progress in that today it has a functioning INFF steering committee, a core working group, and has completed the INFF report. In addition, the Integrated National Financing Strategy has been formulated. Nigeria also went a step further to include a framework for fiscal decentralization, noting that development often takes place at the local level. I highly commend the government of Nigeria and its key partners, including the European Union, IMF, the World Bank, other DFIs, the private sector, and other members of the steering committee. These partners have provided oversight, guidance, and co-creation, and contributed to the successful completion of the INFF report, and critically initiating implementation of its policy recommendations. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe that if Nigeria, the most populous country on the continent and the largest economy in Africa, succeeds in its efforts to achieve the SDGs, it will be a tremendous boost to other countries on the continent and in fact in the world. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ola Monari, the Associate Administrator of the United Nations Development Program. It is now my responsibility once again to invite the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, and the Chair of the National Steering Committee on the INFF for a special remarks. You're welcome.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, the Chief of Staff to the President, Excellencies, governors that are here today, honorable ministers, head of development agencies, specifically the UNDP, the EU, World Bank, and IMF, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here and also to join my sister to thank His Excellency the President for choosing to be here personally, and for all our special guests that are here with us this morning. This meeting is being held under the auspices of the 77th UN General Assembly, and it presents to us another opportunity for stakeholders to discuss on the mileage covered so far and the next steps of action by this administration in our commitment towards bringing the Sustainable Development Goals home to the point where no one is left behind. And ordinary Nigerians can proudly boast of having felt its impact in their individual lives. The federal government, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, has demonstrated strong commitment towards the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. It is this commitment that has culminated to the launch of the Integrated National Financing Framework, the INFF, today. Just as His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari has stated in his address at the UN, Nigeria decided to adopt the INFF as a tool to improve SDG financing without increasing public debt and contingent liabilities to levels that are detrimental to economic sustainability. This financing strategy is backed by a medium-term revenue strategy and a medium-term expenditure framework. It is further supported by a clear roadmap and monitoring framework and includes guidance on governance, coordination to provide a holistic approach with the necessary transparency and accountability which is necessary to measure the successful implementation of the initiative. What do we mean by being able to aim to achieve the INFF? We hope to improve on our revenue collection, both at national and subnational levels. And to this end, we plan to digitize, optimize, and generally make up our tax systems much more effective, better coordinated, and as well as improving our budget processes, and generally make public spending more effective for the benefit of the people. We also aim to make Nigeria a hub for private investments, both at home as well as internationally. We will work with banks and local investors, including institutional investors, by creating a more conducive environment to operate. For international private investors, priority will be given to designing policies and instruments that could positively promote their interests in Nigeria. We are also working already towards improving remittance flows, foreign direct investments, venture capital, as well as angel investment, amongst others, into the Nigerian economy. We will be relying on the continued support of our international partners as donor organizations, international financial institutions, multilateral development banks, development financial institutions, to provide grants and concessionary financing that will enable us build our infrastructure and generally improve on the Nigerian economy. What do we expect in return? We desire a collaborative approach from our partners, our friends, and potential partners that will be joining us to achieve the SDGs in Nigeria through the INFF approach. We are creating a framework, a platform from where we hope that we can, working together, especially with the states, leveraging all of our collective capabilities and actively supporting Nigerian investment drive towards achieving the SDGs by the year 2050. On this note, I want to again thank you for being here today. And again, thank His Excellency, Mr. President, for being here to launch the INFF report. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you very much, the Chair of the National Steering Committee and the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, for saying it as it is. It's now time to invite for the for your remarks from the European Union, and we as the Commissioner for International Partnership at the European Union Commission, ably represented by Della Maneshaw, who is the EU Delegation Head on Sustainable Development.
Thank you. Your Excellency,
Mr. Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to participate in the launch of Nigeria's Integrated National Financing Framework. Country-led INFFs are essential for accelerating progress towards the SDGs and for doing so in an integrated manner. The global economic recovery has slowed and is facing major setbacks as a result of the climate, biodiversity and pollution crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and other crises and conflicts in many parts of the world, including the unprovoked and unjustified military aggression against Ukraine, producing catastrophic economic consequences around the world. Through INFFs, countries take forward financing reforms to mobilize and align public and private financing with their national sustainable development priorities. And since the beginning, the European Union has been a strong supporter of INFFs for a number of reasons. INFFs support long-term investment and strengthen medium and long-term planning, and are thus a key tool for countries to achieve the SDGs and the objectives of the Paris Agreement. In addition, INFFs are a tool for transparency, with a full view of resources for sustainable development. Providers of development finance like the EU can better tailor their support. And finally, INFFs are a tool for effective multilateralism because they create coherence and consistency in the very broad offer of assessment tools and diagnostics. The EU is also financing the work to support the INFF process at country level through the INFF Technical Assistance Facility, which was launched this year. Therefore, the EU has been involved in the INFF process from the outset, including the work on the Development Finance Assessment, DFA, in 2020. Under the EU-IMF Public Financial Management Partnership Programme, PFMPP, the EU fully financed the IMF technical mission for the completion of the Nigeria SDG costing exercise in April of 2020. And finally, this year, the EU signed a 1.7 million agreement, which should allow the completion of the process. More specifically, the EU supports the mobilization of capital for an inclusive and sustainable transition, which is at the heart of the INFF. We know that whilst public finance, of course, has a key role to play, it will not be sufficient. That has been recalled several times this morning, to bridge the SDG financing gap, and private finance needs to be mobilized as well. In the EU, we believe, in fact, that sustainable finance is critical to enable private financial flows being channeled towards sustainable investments. The EU's Green Deal and the Global Gateway strategies are some of the key examples of the EU efforts in this direction. Indeed, sustainable finance is part and parcel of the INFF. Private finance is very much part of Nigeria's integrated national financing framework. The INFF was designed to help the Nigerian government explore innovative financing options, linking government with private sector and development partners to increase public revenue and private investments. We are very pleased to be part of this journey and of this event today to celebrate the launch of Nigeria's INFF. Let me take this opportunity to praise Nigeria for the efforts undertaken towards the achievement of the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, and for the key milestone that you have achieved. In September 2019, 16 countries committed to pioneer the development and implementation of INFFs, and Nigeria was among them. Now Nigeria has, indeed, now Nigeria has successfully designed its INFF strategy and is offering a leading example for INFF progress towards a more systematic, holistic approach to achieve sustainable development objectives. We stand ready to continue to support Nigeria in this critical endeavor and look forward to our future cooperation with the government and all our partners on this key initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is from the European Union and the commitment to continue to support Nigeria on this initiative. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is now time to listen to the United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Hajia Amina Mohammed.
Your Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to join you virtually at the launch of the Nigeria Integrated National Financing Framework, the INFF. Congratulations on preparing a rich INFF report that outlines the current and future development of financing needs in Nigeria. This comes at a time when we are all facing unprecedented global challenges. These challenges call for urgent policy reforms and measures to enhance financing for sustainable development. Many countries have embarked on these frameworks as a means to operationalize the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. INFFs bring awareness to the full landscape of financing available to a country, and they help policymakers to lay out strategies to increase investments and manage financial and non-financial risks to achieve sustainable development priorities. I'm glad to see my own country, leadership, Nigeria, leading the way not only in Africa, but also at the global level. As the largest economy on the African continent, with an enormous untapped demographic dividend, Nigeria has so much to gain. The country's innovative and deep entrepreneurial spirit can be a driving force for a just energy transition, poverty reduction, and leveraging the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Making the most of this opportunity requires massive investments in people. It also requires unleashing the power of the private sector as an engine of growth, enabled by appropriate policy frameworks, efficient institutions, and effective regulatory mechanisms that allow business to flourish. In this regard, Nigeria's well-articulated INFF holds the key to reveal funding gaps, as well as the possibilities to increase finance flows for development from a wide range of sources. Tapping into the full range of financing would have a number of positive effects. This includes potentially raising Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio from the current low level of 6% to the African average of 16.6%. This would be a tremendous boost and could lift 100 million people out of poverty by 2030. Imagine also the growth potential if Nigeria could harness a greater share of private financing flows for development, including FDI and remittances, by providing an enabling environment that guarantees institutional efficiency, reduces corruption, and offers cost-effective fund transfer mechanisms. These are just a few of the potential wins for the Nigerian economy as a result of this new framework. Now it's up to policymakers and key partners across Nigeria to make the most of this opportunity. Across all of this work, the United Nations proudly stands with Nigerians to support them as they tap into these opportunities and take the next steps in the country's amazing journey. Thank you. Your Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Can we have the light on? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It is now my honor to respectfully invite His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for his keynote remarks.
Please sit down. Thank you. Representative of the Administrator of UNDP, heads of international agencies here present, executive governors, honorable ministers, heads of departments and agencies, members of the diplomatic community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be present and to deliver the keynote address at this strategic Nigeria high event on integrated national financial framework on sustainable development. Let me commend the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, and the United Nations Development Program for their joint leadership in the entire integrated national financing framework process in Nigeria. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is exactly 7 years since I joined my colleagues of the member countries during the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and 17 Sustainable Development Goals. With the adoption of the SDGs, we were clear that we set for ourselves a purposeful goal of seeing an economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient future. For Nigeria and indeed Africa as a whole, achieving the SDGs will mean ending poverty and hunger, safeguarding our ecosystem and the planet, and ensuring our people live in peace and prosperity by their 2030. It is pertinent to state that achieving inclusive, broad-based, and sustainable development is a cardinal objective of our administration. It is for this purpose that the federal government of Nigeria established a number of ambitious programs in an attempt to accelerate the environment, to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria. The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs has continued to provide technical leadership in the operations of the SDGs at all levels of governance in Nigeria. Today's event marked the end of a long process which began in 2020 when the steering committee and the co-working group on Nigeria's integrated national financing framework were inaugurated. The integrated national financing framework has been developed to map out a much needed sustainable financing plan for Nigeria to deliver on our commitment to the SDGs and our national development aspirations. Despite the challenges posed by the sharp drop in the prices of crude oil and the coronavirus pandemic, Nigeria has remained resolute in our genuine desire to maintain and grow our economy. The 2017 to 2020 Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, the 2020 Economic Sustainability Plan, the 2021 national poverty reduction with growth strategy, and the 21 to 25 to 2025 national development are all aligned with the SDGs. It is aligned with this commitment and with a focus on the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 that the federal government of Nigeria, with the support of the United Nations Development Program, has adopted the Integrated National Financing Framework as a tool to improve SDGs financing without increasing public debt and contingent liabilities to levels that will be detrimental to economic sustainability. The Integrated National Financing Framework financing strategy is backed by our medium-term revenue strategy and the medium-term expenditure framework. As Nigeria champions the Integrated National Financing Framework process, we hope to promote the strategic alignment of financial policies with sustainable development and provide the enabling conditions for domestic and international, public and private financial actors to best respond to our national needs. The federal government will continue to promote strong partnerships and synergies among its ministries, departments, and agencies and developmental partners for a coordinated implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria. I urge all Nigerians, the international community, and our development partners to recognize the importance of this integrated approach to finance and development as you continue to count on my leadership in its immediate implementation. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is with some pride that I present to you the Nigeria Integrated National Financing Framework Report 2022. I look forward to the effective implementation of the key policies and programs in the months and years to come. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much. His Excellency will unveil the Integrated National Financing Framework Report. And then he will be joined by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the SSAP SDGs, Honorable Minister of State Budget and National Planning, a representative of IMF, United Nations Development Program, European Union, CEO of UN Global Compact, World Bank, Chair of the Private Sector Advisory Group, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, permanent representative of the United Nations. Yeah. So we'll take it batch by batch. We will have that of the executive governors, and then we will go like that. So we'll do the pictures as they do it. So it is both unveiling and a photo session with His Excellency. Yeah. Yes, no. Because of the stage. No. So I'm going to be batch by batch, and the next will be the executive governors here present. Okay. Okay. So we have the co-working group. Members of the co-working group will join His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Finance, and the SSAP SDGs. The co-working group governors will come. We'll do that. Yes. Yes. Okay, executive governors here present, please.
Governors and ministers.
Governors and honorable ministers, please. Thank you. So we buy time. Then after that, we will take the co-working group and the National Steering Committee. Private sector and the governors and ministers are here. They say we should come. Honorable ministers and governors here present. Okay. Okay, thank you. Members of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs hasn't joined. Oh, I see. Okay. Now, members of the co-working group will take with His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Finance and the SSA. Please, members of the co-working group. I will join them. You will join? Yes, now I will come. Pass it. Members of the private sector advisory group, please. This is the last one. Thank you. Yes. Private sector advisory group, please join. Immediately after that, can we have the national anthem ready? The band. Thank you. Members of the private sector advisory group, now will be the last. Okay. So we are getting to the end of this segment, and we will stand for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Okay, so thank you so much, Excellencies. We'll have His Excellency, the SSAP, and the Honorable Minister of Finance. The last one, and we take the national anthem for this opening segment. Thank you. The national anthem, please. To serve our Father, with love, strength, and faith, for all our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve one found in freedom, peace, and unity. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Excellencies, thank you so much. Thank you. So we allow His Excellency to exit while we come back for the panel session. Thank you. So thank you very much. May we please sit so that we can continue with this segment. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. May we all have our seats. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. May we sit to continue. Excellencies, 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 distinguished delegates, may we no, Baba is good. No, but that's not it. Okay, please, can we get seated so that we can complete this segment? Excellencies, distinguished delegates, may we all take our seats, please. Excellencies, there will be time for networking after the panel segment. Excellencies, may we sit. Okay, no, we want you to be. Please, Excellencies, please, can we take our seats, please, so that we can conclude on this segment? Please, Excellencies, please take your seats. Thank you, honorable ministers. Thank you, Excellencies. We have a few goodwill messages, then we will begin the panel. Okay. With your kind permission, I will invite for the goodwill message the representative of the International Monetary Fund for. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Robert Powell. I'm the Special Representative of the International Monetary Fund to the United Nations, and I've got a goodwill message on behalf of the International Monetary Fund to say, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Nigeria has a frustrating living in Nigeria, and so I would like to congratulate the government of Nigeria for being at the forefront of the UN's integrated national financing framework. Became conclusion of the first phase of this program, which is of this report. And credit goes to the leadership of Finance Minister Ahmed and her dedicated staff at the Finance Ministry. But the work is just beginning. Now that Nigeria will move to the implementation phase, where financing the SDGs will likely face challenges, given the currently constrained extent of fiscal space. And let me just go back to something that the Deputy Secretary General Amin Mohammed said. We did the rate of revenues to go from GDP the sub-Saharan African average of 16%. Just think what you could do with those revenues in favor of the SDGs, and the IMF would love to see that. So in this context, efforts to mobilize domestic revenues need to be redoubled, so Nigeria can alleviate these budgetary constraints and bolster social spending while also preserving macroeconomic stability. In addition, those efforts should remain consistent with the objectives, as others have said this morning, laid out in the National Development Plan, the medium-term expenditure frameworks, and the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative. So in this light, I would emphasize that the IMF and my colleagues remain committed to supporting our member countries' efforts to achieve the SDGs, and we're ready to continue our engagement in Nigeria and elsewhere in the implementing stage through policy advice and enhanced capacity building initiatives, particularly in the critical areas of revenue mobilization and medium-term fiscal frameworks. So we wish Nigeria the greatest success in the ongoing effort to achieve the SDGs and to foster inclusive growth and development. Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind goodwill message. I would now like to invite the World Bank for a goodwill message, and I will invite Maria Dimitrieva or her representative to deliver the goodwill message. Okay, so so it is now time to introduce the panel session, and to do that, I will respectfully invite the chair of the panel, Assistant Secretary General and the UNDP resident Regional Director for Africa, Abuna Ezeokonwa, but represented by Dr. Raymond Gilpin, who is the Chief Strategy and Analyst for the Regional Bureau. You're welcome to the podium. So on this panel, we will have the President of the Islamic Development Bank, but here represented by the Vice President of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Mansur Mukhtar, himself former Minister of Finance, Federal Republic of Nigeria. We'll invite the Assistant Secretary General and Chief Executive Officer of the United Nations Global Compact, Assistant Secretary General Sunday Ojiambo. I will invite also the chairman or the co-chair of the Private Sector Advisory Group on SDGs in Nigeria, Mr. Bolaji Balogun. I think that is about the size of our panel today. And I will now hand over to the chair of the panel for moderation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. And let me start by extending sincerest apologies from my boss, Assistant Secretary General Abuna Ezeokonwa, who is unavoidably absent. She's asked me to not just convey apologies, but also to extend her congratulations to the government and people of the great country of Nigeria for their leadership as far as the integrated national financing framework is concerned. And as Madam Special Assistant rightly pointed out, Nigeria is on course to make not just many firsts, but to blaze the trail of others. And why is this important? This is important because we find ourselves at a very uncomfortable juncture in world economic history. A juncture where you have a shock in African economies, the effects of the pandemic, which 50 million into extreme poverty. Climate change is making it difficult for families to ensure their lives and livelihoods in a sustainable manner. The ongoing crisis in Ukraine has caused severe disruptions that threaten food sovereignty across the African continent, for example. But the important message here, and why this juncture is really, really critical, is not so much how much more money countries like Nigeria need to raise, how is it going to be used, how closely and effectively is this going to be aligned to development goals. When we're looking at the national development goals of Nigeria, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the African Union's Agenda 2063. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the INFF is critical and why the step that Nigeria has taken today is pivotal in determining its development trajectory. So today, we have a very able panel. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining. They've all been introduced. So in the interest of time, I'll just go straight to the issues at hand. Start with you, Dr. Mukhtar. Last couple of years, we've seen rising levels of debt, high inflation, exchange rate and challenges. And in many countries, people are taking to the streets because of the effects of these stresses. From a development bank perspective, what do you make of this? And how do we ensure that we could begin to have a conversation around development financing that points to concrete solutions?
Thank you very much. I must say this is a very special day for me to witness the launching of the integrated national financing framework for Nigeria, both on a personal and professional level. I was privileged to co-chair an intergovernmental committee of experts who worked on the architecture of the Addis Ababa Action Plan over a period of 6 months at the United Nations, along with ambassador from Finland and representatives from many countries. And during the course of these deliberations, we appreciated that what we have really is an overarching framework, and that needs to be domesticated and contextualized in country settings, one. And there needs to really secure the ownership. We need to also really So in a sense, this is why I'm very happy that this is happening. You know, it's taken a long time. Many different looking at what the integrated national financing framework, it's really so the person here and we sources that mobilize most of the pieces, look at innovative the nation needs. To see how we can use the resources, and by huge amounts of these domestic mobilizing domestic resources, and also diaspora context. Ability what out in the sources of the LDBs, the role to play as well as supporting countries in designing effective policies. And essentially, we are involved in that. The World Bank has been involved in that. Involved. We have a technical assistance grant for the Ministry of Finance in Nigeria to support capacity building of IERD. And we are also involved with our partners to really facilitate to give us this opportunity.
No, thank you so much. You rightly pointed out the importance not just of leveraging funds, utilizing resources, but also providing technical assistance and support. Going back to the core of the INFF about how effectively and efficiently we could use available resources. You mentioned the importance of partnerships with the private sector, and we do have Mr. Balogun here with us from the private sector. Given what we like, we know that between 1990 and 2021, African countries received $1.3 trillion in aid, and we're still struggling with development. What role could the private sector play, and how do you see the future of development finance from a private sector lens?
So, thank you very much. And, I think it's an excellent question that you teed up. The key aspect of how we must think through accelerating the attainment of the SDGs is really altering the paradigms from which we've operated historically. Aid is important, but much more than aid, investment is really what Africa needs. Nigeria needs to be specific. And Nigeria's growth, Nigeria's progress over the next 30 years will have to be investment-led. Nigeria will need to finance all of its very significant deficits, whether it's in infrastructure, in housing, in education, in healthcare. And when you look at the structure of the government's finances, yes, it is a great thing aspirationally to say that we want to increase tax revenues from the current 6% of GDP to about 16% of GDP. But it's not going to happen overnight. There are very, very significant pools of other capital, particularly private, and come to play a role in very, very significant. One of the key international capital to participate in supporting Nigeria's development. I think it's also important to recognize that we have some significant pools of capital domestically and among Nigerians that are somewhat untapped. There's 22 trillion naira of money sitting in currencies in Nigeria and shifted in the direction of Nigeria's development. Everywhere, numbers can be less significant. The tool that That's the word. It's not even actually the end of the last quarter, global institutional asset managers. Today, none of that number of the entrepreneurs of this great country. Very much.
So I think one of the greatest benefits of forward-looking long-term framework such as this is that it really does put the focus on the long term. Because in the short term, there are very many distractions. Pandemics, climate storms, changes, be they economic, political, and development. I think, the task at hand is to really understand the huge shifts that need to be done, and also understanding that those shifts cannot be done by any one sector alone. So fully agreeing that the government needs to work on creating the enabling environment. The private sector then needs to look at, as I said earlier, the business and investment opportunities. I just want to add that also, if I could speak on behalf of the colleagues at the UN, we're certainly here lending our full support to Nigeria in as many ways as possible, from the agencies that are housed there, from the agencies that are headquartered here, because truly Nigeria's success is Africa's success, which is then the world's.
Thank you so much. I think it has been a very enlightening and illuminating panel. Thanks so much to the expertise we have here with us. But in conclusion, I'd just like to say we don't need to be prophets or children of prophets to know that a number of things are going to happen in the future. Demographic trends are going to increase. Trade is going to become a lot more regionalized and more difficult for African countries to break into global value chains. Africa is going to become the most urbanized continent on the planet. Technology is going to determine whether our children learn or do not learn. Electricity and energy is going to become vital. So, how do we all work together within countries like Nigeria in the global commons to make sure that in the 21st century, for the basic necessities, no one is left behind? And I think that's one of the things that the INFF provides us. It provides us a framework to be able to bring the totality of our energies, the totality of our resources together in a structured and strategic way to address these goals. So on that note, I'd like you to join me once more to thank our most able panel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raymond, for moderating this session. And also, once again, I would like to thank all the panelists for an insightful. So I group photograph the panel photograph. Dr. Reginald is photographed with the Honorable Minister of Finance. Yes, thank you. Okay, yes. Okay. 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 Yes, thank you very much. Sorry? Okay. Thank you. So for the sake of time, it's now to conclude on this segment. I would now like to invite our host, the permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations, His Excellency Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande, for the vote of thanks and closing. Excellency.
One of the ministers led by, in this case, Minister of Finance, Excellencies, honorable ministers, our sister, the senior special advisor leading SDGs, it's really for me and other dignitaries, and also the vice, the deputy governor of Kano State, we recognize you here. It's really for me difficult to know what to say. The experts and the practitioners have spoken, but I'm a perpetual student. I've listened very carefully to what they have said, and I've learned, as I do every day, one or two things. I will simply say that for the permanent mission of Nigeria, through which the Nigerian government, with all the elements within it, have participated in this third event, this hunger, we are particularly grateful that when the Igbo said that the believer our not making ourselves. In this case, not only have we done extremely well in really coordinating ourselves to come to this forum and to present, even as a reminder that we are one of those who have twice committed our voluntary national reviews at UN and done so successfully, but also have partners, including UNDP and others in UN, affirm what we have done. It's a great thing and a great joy for me to witness. And I'd like to say that the UN system has been a great friend to Nigeria. I've had great conversations with almost all the elements, and every day we learn from the UN. I am also sure that the UN has also admitted to the learning from us. This is as should be. In this particular case, we must take pleasure in the successful launch of this INF, because the SDGs have become the organizing force to UN work. Peace and security, human rights. Nothing really happens without really national way of financing development. And this tool and this launch really addresses this particular need, not to just have resources. You have to really organize the resources, deploy. And challenges have been mentioned. To those different, we have to know it's not different. We have not to have it again. But we can, as a human race, certain that other crises will come. But to address crisis, we need rational approaches to governance. And I think this launch shows Nigeria's commitment to learning from others and also showing what can be done to address our challenges as part of humanity. And it is really my great honor that all of ministers and the president himself participated at this launch. And on behalf of the mission and in great appreciation to UNDP and the European Union, we thank you for your active participation at this forum, and we assure you that we'll continue to implement for Nigeria and for the world. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And with this vote of thanks and closing remarks, we have come to the end of this high-level side event. And once again, on behalf of the National Steering Committee, honorable ministers, members of the Federal Executive Council, distinguished guests, delegates, we thank you for coming.